Hi guys, welcome back to Vegan Curious.
We've got a great show for you today.
We sure have. We will be explaining all the benefits of eating a rainbow of food.
Yes, a great way to eat all the beautiful colors of minerals and vitamins, all great for your body to thrive.
We are especially excited this week because we have a very special guest, Ed Winters.
Also known as Earthling Ed. I had the privilege of interviewing Ed, and we're sure that you'll come to understand that being vegan is about including all beings and the planet within our circle of compassion.
We believe there is no single argument against veganism whatsoever.
And there's no argument that Arianna is a fantastic cook, right?
Thank you.
So, some of your recipes are going to be so delicious this week.
Grazie Rosanna. Today I will show you how to make a delicious minestra and a nutritious fruit juice.
Oh, delicious. Lots of knowledge sharing coming your way.
Before we get started, we could use a delicious and nutritious refreshment. So now I'll show Rosanna how to make an amazing detoxing fruit juice. So Rosanna, I would like to show you how to prepare a nutrition juice.
Really? I've never used one of these machines before, so I'm looking forward to it. So how does it work?
You know, a blender is a great way to create smoothies. But the juice extractor is different.
Oh, so they're two different things. One is a blender for making smoothies, but this is a juice extractor.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
It's different. The juice from a good quality juice extractor are smooth, vibrant, and very dense in nutrients.
Oh, great.
And rich in vitamin.
Beautiful.
So the juice, for example, is perfect when you have a virus. Like, I don't know, a flu.
Yes, yeah, and I guess it would be really good as a pick-me-up too when you're feeling a bit tired. Yeah, all the nutrients pick you up again. Yeah,
yeah,
lovely.
And it's perfect in the summer, for example.
Yeah, beautiful.
For refreshing.
You've got some a special one in mind for us?
Yes, this is my favorite juice.
Yeah.
With the carrots, a little bit of ginger, apples, and celery.
Yum, looks like a bit of a detoxing one.
Yes, I think so, yes. So let's start.
Okay, let's start.
Okay. With this type of machine, you can control the speeds, so which is important because at around 45 revolutions per minute, you are going to keep more nutrients in your juice.
Oh, okay. So it slowly separates and keeps all the nutrients in.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, look at that. You can actually see all the colors of the carrots and the apples and the lovely juice. And on this side, you can actually see all the extracted fiber. Look at all that.
Yeah.
That's great. Wonderful. Let's try it.
They are rich in vitamin, eh?
Yeah, beautiful.
It's really, really good for your skin.
Yeah? Oh, good. It looks really delicious. I can already smell it. Yeah. Lovely, Arianna. This is a lovely treat. A nice, healthy one. È buonissimo, Arianna. Un brindisi.
A noi.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Lovely. You know, when I was looking on the other side here, with all the extract that's come out, what can you do with that? Because you've got lovely carrots and apples. What could you do?
Well, you can use for compost, or for your cakes, for example.
Oh, of course. Carrot cake,
Yes.
apple cakes, it'd be delicious.
Yes.
Oh, nothing goes to waste in Arianna's kitchen. No. Thank you, Arianna. It was delicious.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Veganism has many champions, and this week I had the pleasure of speaking to Ed Winters, also known as Earthling Ed, one of the most passionate voices in the movement. He's a vegan educator, public speaker, and content creator based in London. Winters is the co-founder and co-director of Surge, an animal rights organisation determined to create a world where compassion towards all non-human animals is the norm.
I've eaten all of these products, right? And the reason I went vegan isn't because I stopped enjoying them. It's because I asked myself a question: what has higher value? My taste, preferences, or their life?
So veganism is a lifestyle that seeks to exclude as far as is possible and practicable all forms of animal exploitation from our everyday lives. So what that means is it means taking out things like meat, dairy and eggs, clothing like leather and fur and wool, making sure that the products we buy, cosmetic products and household products, aren't tested on animals, not going to zoos and aquariums. Basically, it's about looking to find out where animals are exploited for us and taking those aspects of exploitation out of our lives.
I mean, there's so much information out there. I mean, people do know that veganism and plant-based exist. There's movies, documentaries, there's Surge that you run, and really letting people know. But why do you think that there is such a distrust in the science?
I think it comes down to this idea of, they call it like merchants of doubt. So it happened before, or it still happens with climate change, where there's an overwhelming abundance of scientific literature that very clearly proves that climate change is an issue that we need to address. And yet there's still huge amounts of people that don't believe that to be true. And so I think what happens is it becomes a very confusing situation because we hear two sides of the coin. And now one side has the scientific validity, but the other side is really resonating with what we want. Because we'd all love to live in a world where consuming meat, dairy and eggs didn't harm animals, wasn't bad for the environment and wasn't bad for our health. Unfortunately, all of those things are wrong, but it's easier to believe the comfort of something like that, because to understand that it's bad in all these different ways makes us feel guilty, makes our conscience feel uneasy, and then makes us realize we have to change. And we're quite against often the concept of changing, and a lifestyle change in particular feels so big to us. So it's more comfortable, I think, just to ignore all the scientific literature and ignore the reality of what's happening, and instead just kind of reaffirm our pre-existing values.
We have 3,000 dogs registered in Gibraltar, which is a really big number considering we've only got 33,000 people living here. And they love them, they love their pets. But, if you tell them, but when they say, oh, I love my dog and I love animals, but when you say to them, yeah, but according to what's on your plate, you're not an animal lover. How can we change that way of thinking? That there's no difference between your dog and a cow and a pig? How do we do that, Ed?
I think it's remarkable that people have such an attachment to the animals in their homes. I think it's a wonderful thing that we care so deeply about animals. It's just we do have this kind of paradoxical mentality where the animals that we consume, the animals that we exploit for other reasons other than food, we don't often think about them. And so we're raised in a society and in a culture that teaches us that dogs are pets and cats are pets, but the other animals are food. And so because we're raised with those sets of values, we never really question them. It's what our peers do, it's what our family have taught us, it's what society in general teaches us. And so because we never question those ideas, we never have to really think about the difference. Because ultimately, when you think about the difference between these animals, it becomes very obvious that there is no meaningful difference. Apart from, of course, visually how they look and how they walk. But when it boils down to the issue of whether or not they deserve moral consideration, there's no difference between them. Of course, they're all alive and they're conscious and sentient. They can experience suffering and happiness, pleasure and pain. And it's these meaningful attributes that mean that they deserve the right to life in the same way as the animals that we love in our homes do. when societal norms become so ingrained within us, it's very hard to challenge those societal norms because it does make us feel uncomfortable. But for many vegans that I know, it was having a companion animal in their home that allowed them to make that connection. For me personally, I had a hamster called Rupert, and Rupert the hamster was part of my process into learning about why other animals shouldn't be killed for me and exploited for me. Because I realized that he had likes and dislikes, things that made him Rupert the hamster. And I realized that if the hamster Rupert, is indeed all the animals that we love in our homes, if they have these attributes that we care very deeply about and make their life meaningful to us, well, then so do all the other animals in the farms, the slaughterhouses, and all the facilities where we, use them and cause them suffering. It's just about making that connection and realizing that and saying, well, if I wouldn't want anyone to hurt my dog or my cat or my hamster, then what right do I have to pay for someone else to cause suffering to animals that in every way that matters, they are the same too, they possess the same attributes of.
That's right. And, where we are, the Rock of Gibraltar, we're surrounded by the sea, the Mediterranean Sea filled with fish. And I think sometimes we forget that every single little creature under the sea has a life too,
We have this idea, don't we, that fish are just this huge collective of almost sea vegetables. We don't really recognize them as being animals in the same way that we do with other animals. And so it's really easy for us to ignore fish because, as you say, they're out there in the vast ocean, which realistically we still know very little about. And I think because their lives are often invisible to us, we discount their lives as having any purpose or any meaning. Yeah. But as you say, what's wonderful about fish is they display so many vibrant and amazing characteristics, and they do so many amazing things that even for me, the more I learn about fish, the more I'm in awe of what they can do. Because it's not just about the fact that they're sentient and they feel pain. Their existence far transcends just those kind of very basic attributes. They can do wonderful things. They have these great community and kind of like teamwork orientated behaviors. They can work together. They work with different species. They form these little communities. What I think is exciting about animals is we still know very little about them, and we still know very little about, how they think, how they feel, and ultimately what they can do. And so the purpose, I suppose, of veganism is about reshaping our relationship with the natural world and with animals. And the more we do that, the more that we live in a somewhat symbiosis, a harmonious kind of system with them, the more we can learn from them, and the more we can gain from them, and the more we can explore their behaviors. And we all love watching documentaries about animals and learning about them because it's so fascinating and so inspiring to us. And so, we should just grant them the right to live out their life, even just from a selfish point of view, because then it gives us the opportunity to learn from them and see all the amazing things they can do as well.
So Ed, what's the urgency now? It's becoming a really big thing around the world. People are starting to, embrace veganism, and there's an urgency. There's more documentaries, there's more books, there's more papers, there's more shows like this.
Well, in the past few years in particular, there's been, a huge amount of information that's come out in a way that, we've never seen before about, what's happening to animals, about the environmental impact of what we do to animals, about their health impacts of what it does to us when we consume them. And I think this year as well, we've learned a lot about how what we do to animals and nature can have a huge direct impact on our society in general, because of course, COVID-19 is strongly thought to have originated from a wet market in Asia. And when we look for our history, particularly in the past 100, 120 years or so, we can trace back so many of these big infectious zoonotic diseases to what we've done to animals and our exploitation of animals and the wider world in general. And so there is an urgency because the compounding effect of all these different things is becoming very clear to us that climate change is a huge issue, and one of the biggest drivers of so many aspects of climate change, of course, is what we do to animals. When we look at land use, water use, greenhouse gas emissions, all the major factors involved in the breakdown of our environment. And so it's becoming more urgent because we're becoming more aware, and because the reality of the consequences of what we're doing is becoming more real to us every single year. And I think people are becoming empowered now because we're actually given the opportunity to make these decisions for ourselves. You know, we can go into a supermarket, we can go somewhere where we buy food or whatever item we're buying, and we have a choice to buy a plant-based option or an animal-based option. And because we have all this information, we now have that power and that knowledge to make informed decisions, which is a unique thing, to be informed about issues. Throughout our past, you know, we weren't informed about what happens to animals. We weren't informed about what we do to animals affecting our planet. But now, because we have that information, we feel like we can make a meaningful difference. And it's a really important recognition to have, that we as individuals can have a really meaningful impact on our planet right now, but also into the future as well. Because of course, our children and our grandchildren will live on the world that they inherit from us. And so it's an important issue now, because we're realizing the severity of everything that's happening and how our everyday choices are interlinked with everything that's happening. And it's leaving people with a desire to do something, because we need to do something, and that's creating meaningful change.
Vegan Curious will be back after the break. Don't go away.